The following is a presentation of Tuning into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television.
Hello and welcome to the Small Council Matters podcast. I am Wendy Hembrock, and I am thrilled to be joined by all of our maesters to talk about the penultimate episode of Season 3, Dragon in Winter. So we are going to get things rolling as soon as possible. We will call to order and have folks introduce themselves, please.
This is Christine from Michigan, your mistress of correction, and I have a reputation to uphold.
Hey, everybody. This is Shannon out in the Pacific Northwest in Vancouver, Washington. And I'm not sure about this, but is Sunfire dead?
You took my rating. This is Jesse Jackson, DFW on social media, and maestress of happiness, sunshine, and all things Springsteen. And I'm not dead yet, maybe, is one of his Sunfire loves Spamalot, and that's his favorite song.
So I am Wendy, the Maester of Links. We have a few, and I am going to affirm what Kurt up in the Great White North affirmed, which was Sunfire was just pining for the fjords. And a little gathering around the campfire and some marshmallows. Or some toasty rivermen.
He'd certainly be useful for s'mores.
He'd be super handy. And I bet he makes a mean barbecue.
Burnt s'mores.
So just a reminder before we get into talking about the details of this episode, we'd love to get your ravens and comments and feedback. One of the best ways to interact with us as well as other listeners is to join our Discord. We have a special Game of Thrones channel for the TV-only folks, as well as the book readers who are spoiled on all things George R.R. Martin. You can also reach us on social media. We are at SCM_pod or at Tuning Into Sci-Fi. If you follow the link to the show notes, you'll see a link to leave us a voicemail. Or you can call us at 706-927-8478. Operators are not standing by. You can leave a voicemail. So just a couple of links, which hopefully everyone saw right after the episode, for the inside the episode, as well as the house that dragons built. I want to hear folks' thoughts and comments on things that the showrunners and the actors shared. And we will start with Christine.
They really like to talk about fire in these episodes. They like to talk about how they add the fire elements later. What I liked seeing was the army that's out looking for Tylan. They're holding torches, but in reality, they're light sticks, and the real fire gets added later. Those things look cool. I want one of those torches. And there's a lot of praise for Tom's performance, shouting down an army. My dislike of the writing leading up to the scene aside, he really was excellent here, and we shall have a memorandum for his voice. Now, House of the Dragon also loves to burn people. We all know this. It's their favorite thing ever. And they've gotten to a point where they're picking the number to break records. Not to, actually add good content to the show. They just want to break records. And there's a substantial cost attached. Guys, knock it off. We're not gonna notice 3 more stunt guys. I promise. Of course, the reason they always do the deep dive on the stunt burns is because these guys are actually risking a lot doing these scenes for a dozen seconds on the screen. Sure, they get paid really well, but the recognition is deserved, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, we were all laughing because every time we watch one of these, it's like, man, they sure love to burn people. And then that was one of the first things when it started rolling. That was a good behind the scenes. What I appreciated, one of the little touches, was they had this huge bank of lights behind, to show how the effect of flickering torches and fire and whatever. And they just kind of rotated in and out of brightness like a disco pattern. And that's how they make that look so real, especially in a low light atmosphere. I thought that was a very cool revelation on the behind the scenes. The fire, of course, is very, very cool. And I like what the director said, that before they started filming, Tom Glencarny came up and said, I've got 7, maybe 8 takes in me to get this right, because he's going to go for it every time. So, yeah, as you said, Christine, kudos to him. That was just an amazing performance. And also, I thought it was very interesting how they staged the battle with the 4 dragons. You know, they were on location in that field, but then they had the people that would hold up like a dragon puppet head to kind of help with eye lines and spacing and whatever. And then there was a new tool they said they used where they could superimpose an animatic of a dragon into the scene as the director was actually filming it. And they could see it on playback to check out the spacing and everything else. So the technical wizardry behind that, was very interesting to watch on the behind the scenes stuff, and looked amazing in camera too.
So I was watching the episode last night, and then watched the behind the scenes stuff, and my son walked by and said, "Oh, they have their own version of WWE Unreal." And I said, "Yes, that's exactly what it is." And I said, but unlike just talking to the actors, they talk a lot to the writers and the crew and the stunt people. And so once again, it was great. The focusing on fire and the idea, let's set a world record. I can't remember who told the story, but someone told a story once that they were going to, for a stunt, get placed on fire. And it was only going to be for like 4 seconds for a film or something. And after it happened, they were screaming, "Why? I thought we were only doing 4 seconds. Why did you not turn it off right away?" And they're like, "No, we actually only did it 2 seconds." So I can only imagine when you're on fire in real life, every second seems like an hour. So yeah, great stuff. I agree with you, Shannon. I'm watching the Dance of the Dragons, and I'm watching all the fighting and everything going on. And then when you watch that, you realize, how do you act when it's all virtual, right? And they showed how they try to do that. Matt Smith, I almost said Matt Damon, he looked like he was exhausted, right? And he talked about that. So I just thought, wow, how hard that must be. And I love the writer and the director's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. So good for them giving us this. It's a gift every week to kind of see this. Because as we used to talk about, you used to have to wait to buy the DVD sets. And all the stuff would be on it. And this, they just give as part of the package. And so it was really nice.
Yeah, kudos to HBO for this bonus content. I was kind of thinking, are we at asymptote now on burning people? And I think we can maybe focus our huge efforts and stunts maybe in something else to excel at. But it was pretty amazing when Sunfire lit up the forest, for sure. Tom Glencarny's performance as Aegon was definitely the Emmy tape segment of this episode, and it was wonderful to listen to him talk about his character. It's also just so striking how he seems to be 180 degrees in temperament. He seems like a very sweet, funny guy, very low key compared to his character. So that's real acting, folks. I also liked the conversation about how this dragon dance was going to be different from the ones we've seen before that were, aerial battles. And this was going to be on the ground, and their inspiration was, Godzilla versus Mothra. And, because that definitely played out to me. The other thing I thought was funny was Matt Smith did say that he did not enjoy that day, and he was the one who was falling all over the place in those scenes and kind of getting beat up, whereas the actors who played Raina and Adam were talking about it was so much fun, and it's like, well, all you did was run from one side of the grass to another for the most part. So I totally understand why the little bit older Matt Smith his mileage was different. It was a great bonus content as always. I highly recommend it to folks. So let's get moving now into some listener feedback. We got a bunch, which we appreciate. So first up, we're going to look at what the folks in Discord have been saying, and Christine's going to break it down for us.
Yeah, got a lot of feedback on Discord. First up, we have Chris K. Just finished watching episode 7, and that's what I'm talking about. A much stronger episode than last week's. The pacing was much better. Every scene had a point for being in the episode. I enjoyed the entire episode, but my favorite scene? Dragon fight! Even the weakest scene, Bela and Alan, had a point. I think you mean Adam. Question. Did Sheep Stealer crawl away and die, or is he still alive? He looked pretty beat up to me, but still healthy enough to survive. Chris, I'd say since the show just decided that being in a coma for, a month, not eating and slowly rotting is not enough to kill a dragon, I'm guessing that Sheep Stealer will be back and fit as a fiddle in 2 days. Next up we have Denise. Sheep Stealer, get off Sheep Stealer! In the book, the Dance of Dragons is intermixed with the combat happening between fighters, but it's no less painful to read or watch dragons tearing one another apart. A portend of things to come. It seems that Sheep Stealer has adopted Raina and started to pay attention to her and fiercely defends her. And Sheep Stealer can throw hands. This should tell viewers this is not the first time Sheep Stealer has tangled with other dragons. Because the writers have merged the Nettles Raina story arc, I have every confidence Sheep Stealer and Raina will be reunited. And because of the combined story arc, I have a theory the writers might have Raina go the way of Laenor. Also, loved the Nettles shout out by Jane. Also, loved how Bela immediately forgave her sister. My second favorite scene was the one when Aegon, Tyland, and Larys all parted ways, but as Larys went off, it was sad to see Aegon's look back at Larys like he'd lost a friend. But absolutely cheered when Aegon and Tyland stood their ground against that group of soldiers. I know Aegon is brave, but to see him and Tyland standing side by side reminded me of Dany and Jorah fighting the White Walkers at Winterfell. And then Sunfire awakening and coming to the rescue was frackin' epic! I was pumping my fists in the air when Sunfire set those soldiers on fire. I fell for Aegon in season 2, and this scene made me fall for Tyland Lannister as well. I have to say neither Rhaenyra nor Alicent have cowards for children. My last favorite scene was seeing Helaena atop Dreamfire. She looked absolutely fierce in her riding garb and yelled out the most provocative Dracarys I've ever heard, even over Dany. And Dreamfire looked menacing. I wish Helaena was a writer. Great ep. Lots happened. Denise, I'll just say that you and I have very different feelings on that Sunfire scene. To be continued. And our last comment was from Davia. So this was the dragon episode. Why did it take us so long to get here? Rhaenyra finally said her dad was a dreamer. Now she needs to acknowledge he wasn't a good ruler and now turned to ruling. The smartest thing she did this episode was to follow Daemon. Now she needs to start paying attention to her entire small council. Davia, I don't know if you had a typo in there, because in fact Rhaenyra did not say that her dad was a dreamer. She said, my father was not a dreamer, but his whole life was a dream. And I do believe she, in a way, acknowledged that her father's vision was wrong. Striving to be like him has only caused her problems. She said that in the same scene. What do you guys think?
So first, thanks for the comments, everybody. We absolutely adore hearing from you. Yes, I love the dragon fights. Obviously, we'll talk more about that. The weakest scene, the Bela and Adam. Jesse, this might be more in your territory as an aficionado of Hallmark movies. Just like a little mistaken romance there. But in a way, it kind of fit with what they were doing. And Sheep Stealer, again, there were several wild dragons that I think I mentioned them. There's Grey Ghost and the Cannibal and whatnot. So I imagine, that those dragons have scrapped with each other, at some point. So even though Sheep Stealer had been riderless up until now, I do believe that, Sheep Stealer was in some scrap. Is Sheep Stealer he or she? I can't remember.
They've been saying he.
Okay. Yeah. So I imagine he's been in some scraps. Davian, Christine is correct. Rhaenyra did say that Viserys was not a dreamer. He lamented the fact that he wasn't, but that he lived in a dream. And I took that a couple of ways. One, and then I took it as her saying it was a dream because everything was so easy for him, that he didn't preside over a time of war. And, the biggest conflict that he had was kind of at the end with this whole succession thing. Or it could just meant he lived in a dream and just kind of put his hands over his ears and away all the problems, and just made things easier. So there was a couple of ways to take what she said there. Yeah, I thought, I agree with most of what everybody said, and we certainly appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
I want to echo, thank you so much for giving us your feedback and thoughts. It's always fun to read, and we appreciate it. Yeah, the Viserys, right, is, I think it is kind of more of a, just he, in this feeling like we can all, why can't my family all love each other? Like when we had the Last Supper, he was so happy. And so, till everything went to hell in a handbasket. This is, yes, we do have a Hallmark love triangle. Two brothers fighting for the princess. That was a fun scene with the, oh yeah, so he's talked to you. What? It was just a lot of fun. So yeah, keep the comments in, keep them coming, and we appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, everyone who posted on Discord. I always look forward to seeing everyone else's hot takes when the episodes drop. To me, Sheep Stealer was wounded enough that he couldn't fly, and he was limping off stage right. I was surprised that Caraxes didn't finish him, and it seemed like the only reason he didn't was because Daemon fell off, and he went to see how Daemon was, which was a little surprising. I kind of would have thought Caraxes would have just kept going, but I'm glad he didn't. I definitely felt bad for Sheep Stealer when it was 3-on-1, and but he was really fierce. I'm a little worried about whatever happened to Syrax. Syrax was getting pretty beat up in the beginning of that fight. I would echo the comments about Viserys. I think Viserys was lived in a dream world, lived in a fantasy. He created his own reality. Allison even made a comment about that a couple episodes back when she said Viserys lived in a world that neither of us ever visited. Referring to her and Rhaenyra. And it's definitely a problem that Rhaenyra needs to get beyond thinking about her father as the gold standard that she needs to be ruling against, because he was a peacetime president. He did not have the challenges that she has at all. And, I'm assuming that means eventually she's going to lead with the Targaryen strength, which is dragons, only it's going to go horribly wrong when she does, just based on kind of how things are going so far. I loved the shot of Helaena on Dreamfire. That dragon is really interesting with all of those little spiky things on its head, and she looked amazing on the dragon itself. So it was a very brief moment in that dream, but it was very cool. So thank you all for your feedback. We really, really appreciate it. And we also got email from Ken in Chicago. He sent us 2 different emails, one about episode 306 and another about episode 307. So I invite folks to share any thoughts about those.
So, I'm going to call out a few points from Ken's emails. For episode 6, he asked, I'm sorry, why weren't the Gold Cloaks paid? I remember Damon wanting to pay them, but Rhaenyra said they were waiting a little longer. The Gold Cloaks weren't paid because they had limited funds and chose to use those funds to feed the people of King's Landing because their usual resources had been drained by the war. This is one of those uncomfortable balancing acts that is falling over. He asked, did they recast Gwaine? He looks like a teen, but Darren calls him uncle. First off, teenagers can be uncles. It's weird, but it happens. But secondly, Freddie Fox, who plays Gwaine, is currently 36. If he looks like a teen, hell yeah! And then he asks, so what advice would you give the Queen? Well, I would never try to give advice to someone running a country, because what the hell do I know? But might I suggest that she stop looking for Aemon and Vhagar, at least with dragons, start looking for an alternative revenue source instead of waiting for someone to find the missing gold. Try being Helena's sister rather than her captor. Now, his email for episode 7, he goes, the Dance of Dragons, a tragedy caused by teenagers. Rhaena begged Daemon to keep her presence secret, but she can't do it herself. Yes, Ken, teenagers are irresponsible. That's why we have all sorts of age limits to keep them from dangerous things like driving and drinking and sex with adults. That one's a bit weird. I don't want to get into that. Let's see. He also gives a shout out for Shannon and the book readers. Vindication! I assume you're speaking about the Sunfire bit. Let me be clear about this whole Sunfire thing. I am not against the dragon resurrection. I am against the presentation of this plotline. We, the audience, get the Gestapo treatment in an attempt to force us to believe this dragon is dead. But with each beating, we believe it less. Then, when the dragon is miraculously alive, we're supposed to be shocked and awed. Sorry, this is a little kid trying to wow me with his store-bought magic trick. I wasn't buying it, and I certainly wasn't enjoying it.
I can't wait till we talk about that scene because I want to get more clarity on how you feel, Christine. I'm not sure.
I wish you'd just say it.
So thanks, Ken, for your emails. They're entertaining as always. I
did a literal spit take. Thank you.
Yeah, the payment is tough because she's really in a rock and a hard place. And it seems like another terrible yet expedient decision was just blame it on Torrhen Manderly versus trying to get money some way. And they actually address that in yet another, to me, hilarious Black's small council scene. Dan Fogler sold the comedy in that very well. Let's see. The teenagers, a tragedy caused by teenagers. Have you read some Shakespeare? Have you watched the CW network? Yes, they are the root of all evil, it seems like. So many bad decisions to go around. Anyway, so yes, I'm not doing a victory lap over that because like all I was doing is reacting to existing knowledge. But it's been fun to like debate this back and forth for years? It seems like. So anyway, thanks for all your comments, Ken. Love to read them and write in again.
Yes, thank you, Ken. I am so glad you've played catch up and got us not one but 2 emails, and so thank you very much. Yeah, not a lot I can add except just how much I loved your discussion. She is just not a very good queen. And I think we're going to discuss when we get to the details, she is losing it more and more and focusing on the wrong things. So this is not going to work out well for her. So I appreciate that feedback. And darn teenagers. What are you going to do?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I did laugh out loud and that comment about teenagers, they do ruin everything. And I'm shaking my fist at them, especially Raina. But Jason Bela too, right? They screwed up some stuff big time in the beginning. Plus you have the those green boys been a menace as well. TBD on Daron, if he's gonna be a terrible teen or not. So thank you again, Ken. We appreciate it. Thank you all. Now let's switch gears and get into our quick review, ratings, and thoughts on the episode. And Christine, we're going to start with you again.
My very, very quick thoughts. Sweet dreams to all in Westeros. Glad to see Lord Corlys is alive, although down a finger. Maybe we should call him Corlys of the Nine Fingers. Rhaenyra doesn't get relief in the council chambers, but in the bed chambers, things got fiery this episode, and it keeps things interesting. 9 out of 10 Nightshade nightcaps.
Yeah, I thought this was another good episode that also checked in a lot of different locations and got things ready for what appears to be a big finale at Tumbleton. So I thought that it was filled with really interesting performances, some sad scenes, some funny scenes, some things we haven't seen before, like Wendy mentioned in the behind the scenes. We've seen lots of dragon action and dragon on dragon action, but not really on the ground. It's mostly been aerial or dragons against soldiers or whatever. So kudos to the special effects team and the actors for selling that. And several ongoing plot resolutions, like who was Ormond's inside man and the health of Sunfire and will they find Rhaena? All those things were kind of resolved. So there were some things I didn't quite like I didn't really understand the Alicent thing at all. I don't know if we'll talk about that or not, but but overall I thought it was a very good episode, and I'll give it a 9.4 out of 10.
I guess I had expectations because this was the next to last episode. And historically, for HBO, that's when blank gets real. And I did not feel we had that kind of, and I always hate to be the one like, hey, if they don't whack anyone, it wasn't a great episode of Sopranos, right? But it just felt like it was good, but I just expected more. So I think I would give it a higher rating if it was not where it's located. I debated on this. We always have fun picking our rating, and I thought about making a pun about Damien having to say please, but I'm going to go with 8 out of 10 DQ LIFs. Dowry Queens I like flying with.
It took me a second. That's very funny.
Wow. That, Jesse.
Interesting.
I would never expect that from you.
I'm working blue.
Yep. You sure are. I liked that we got a lot of things moved forward in terms of trajectory. I do agree that we did not have a major dun dun dun. We had a lot of little pieces pulling apart. But to me, that is the whole setup of this story. It isn't one battle or one lousy decision. It's a perfect storm of many bad choices, bad timing, bad motivations that are kind of screwing up the plans on both the Greens and the Blacks. But in this episode, particularly Rhaenyra. So I'm going to give this 9 out of 10 gashes in sheep stealer's throat. Now let's talk about the details and get into some of the highlights. And Christine, you get to lead off.
I'm gonna go in a direction probably nobody will expect. The intrigue in Tumbleton. Ormond says, I have a piece on the board that will bring the bitch to her knees. Apparently, that piece is Lord Corlys, or so he wants everybody to think. And he is not buying Ormond's crap. He's clearly annoyed at his flowery speech and is straight up done when he brings up Rhaenys. I do wish he had drunk that wine, though. It probably would have hurt less. I'll say, his name is spelled strange, but it is pronounced normal. It is Darren. Poor Darren is speaking sense and getting the side-eye. But honestly, who does care about the Velaryon troops when the Rivermen and the Winterwolves are knocking at the gates? I think Darren would have been backhanded if Corlys wasn't there to see it. And he actually seems like he'd be a good king. Even though he has no desire for the role, he fusses over the lives of the men under his charge, and he realizes he can't just leave, even though he doesn't want to be in this position to begin with, because what'll that make him? What will people think of him if he just walks away from everything he's supposed to be in charge of? I mean, nobody's going to listen to him if he said, I didn't pick this, I was thrust into this role, and I just tried to get out of it. But I really like this kid, and I really want him to come out well from this, so he'll probably die. But I did get a couple of my predictions this episode, and the easy one was that Ulf would turn on the Blacks. And it was such a good callback to when Ormond said not to trust a commoner who has risen to great heights. It's like he had already been talking to Ulf at this point. I think this is what he was talking about when he has that piece on the board. This is a bigger piece. That everybody's worried about the Winter Wolves showing up, and he's ready for them. With a dragon, nobody expects to turn on them. And all he has to do is offer him stuff he's pretty sure he's never going to have to muster up. Like, and Ulf was actually aiming low. It, wasn't like a big request to ask for Honey Holt. I don't even know where that is, or, what, kingdom they're in. I'm pretty sure they make honey there. There's probably lots of bees. But Ormond's just like, no, let's shoot for the moon. After this is all done, there's not going to be anybody in charge of Driftmark. How would you like to be Lord of the Tides? And I'm like, yeah, because this guy knows everything about sailing. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm sure that Ormond's pretty sure he's going to die before they win the war. Or if not, he's just going to kill him. They're easily dealt with. But yeah, this, I used to hate political intrigue, but I don't know. This has grown on me. I love to hate Ormond, and I love to root for Darren. And the uncle-nephew relationship with Gwaine, because they really seem like a team, although Gwaine's kind of in defeatist mode at the moment. I'm sure he'll be there for Darren in the end. What do you guys think of this scene?
Well, Christine, as you might imagine, Honey Holt is the home of House Beesbury. So, that's who's there, and it seems like they're down a lord after, Kristen Cole's, outburst at the Green Council meeting. So I think that's why he felt like he could offer Honey Holt. I really dug this scene. You see, Ormond is trying to restrain himself from being an a-hole, but he just can't stop his prejudices. And when he goes on, what did he say about the Targs? He's like, what do you see in them? They're brutish and incurious. He just hates that. And your wife, of course, is of their blood. That ended all too predictably. It's like, why even add that? How do you think you might possibly sway Corlys to play along as a hostage? Or maybe you don't even care. But it seems like he was saying last episode that he kind of admired him, and he didn't kill him when he took him. So, but he just can't help himself. And, you're right. When Corlys heard that, he was done. And I loved Corlys's performance in that, just like putting his hand over the cup of wine, trying to maintain some dignity. And I just like to go back to my cell. And Christine, Darren is a fascinating character. A lot of these people in the novel, we don't get their motivations and their personalities fleshed out. I think I posted on Discord last week in a discussion that the book is a lot of this happened and this happened and this happened. And so they have to round out these characters and make them as dimensional as possible. So I like everything they've done with Ormond and done with Darren. I think naturally people in the beginning assumed that they were putting their finger on the scale a little bit for the blacks. But I think we've also seen a little more on Team Green, like they really humanized Aegon. I don't want to call it a full-blown redemption act now because he's probably a fire-breathing megalomaniac again. But we had sympathy for him and he appeared to grow and learn things. And Darren is a sympathetic character and, the reluctant leaders are often the best ones. And I like how he said, she can keep the crown. I don't even want the crown. Which what was it John always said? I don't want it. That I think that bodes well for Darren's potential as a future leader. So yeah, and Ormond played it very slyly with the whole thing. I think it goes back to, and I love how they set up the scene with Ulf too, because they started right away with since we last spoke. So that they've been in contact for a while. A nice little shorthand, and he remembered to bring him ale, and Ulf liked the ale. And that was kind of a chilling turn at the end from Ulf when he's like,
burn them all.
Yeah, when he says like,
basically,
they will laugh no more when they see you as you are. No, they will burn. And there was a lot of talk thematically in this episode about see me as I am. People will see you for what you are, which I think was kind of the undercurring theme of this episode. And we saw a lot of that in the scene you referenced, Christine. So good choice.
Yeah, I love both scenes. Kind of the, Corlys, I've been through this before. I'm not going to be intimidated by you. I don't know, in one of the behind the scenes, the actor said they could have just took my ring. Did they have to take my finger? Which I thought was a pretty funny line. This was, your, sudden but inevitable, like from Firefly. Like we knew just Ulf is only going to be as loyal as the last person who gives him ale. And when Rhaena, like, no, you can't go to the bar anymore where everyone knows your name. Then Daemon beats him and they show that clip. You're like, okay, we can just count on it. He's going to betray them. And I love that it was implied this has been going on a while. Right? That this is, Ormond's been sweet talking him. He's been taking him to dinner. He's been wooing him. Come over to my side, right? Leave where you're going. We won't worry about your non-compete. We're going to work our way around this. Just come over here. You can be a dragon rider for us. And I could get a castle, and like, you're thinking too small. We've got even a better castle for you, and you'll be a lord. And he is going, I don't want to just be respected. I want to get back to all the people who didn't respect me. For everyone who made fun of me or mocked me, I have a frickin' dragon now. And that's consistent. He said, they're going to respect me because I have the dragon, right? He's always, and this is, I realize he wasn't born on third base, but he was given a gift. This has done nothing he's earned. This is just by happen through genes or something, a dragon adopted him. And now then, instead of being grateful and being supportive, where do I get mine? So this was certainly not surprising, but I loved how they did it, and I loved seeing it And this is going to be, I am intrigued, when will he betray and how will he betray them? And it was good ale, so he was happy.
I have to say it now. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal!
I like this choice a lot. It wouldn't have been my first choice, but I see why you did it. The thing that, Ormond's got a lot of pans on the fire. He made a comment a couple episodes back, maybe last week, about, we're going to take her down from the inside and it's going to be bite by bite. So, the thing that I find very interesting is that he is not sharing his plan with Darren or Gwaine, which tells me he doesn't plan for either one of them to be heavily involved in ruling, even when Darren is sitting on that throne, which has got to have those two. I mean, currently they think he's crazy because he isn't focused on what they view as the imminent danger, which is the Rivermen are coming, because they don't know about this Ulf with his dragon plan. And it's brilliant from Ormond's perspective in terms of how do you take away the dragons? Well, you lure them to your team. And he made those comments about commoners last week. He definitely has a view about how to treat commoners, and he's manipulating Ulf spectacularly. He also thinks he's going to be able to keep that guy in check, which I'm not sure if that's such a great assumption, given that he does have a dragon. And we'll see, if he's a loyal dog to Ormond or not, especially if they keep the Lord of Tides around, even without his finger. I also did really appreciate Corliss's response to everything that Ormond was throwing at him in that dinner. And I don't think he was testing him. I think he really was leading with his own biases about Targaryens and didn't actually think, because he's such a misogynist, that making a negative comment about the guy's wife was going to set him off. But that's exactly what happened. It's like, you diss my wife, that's the bridge too far. But Ormond would never consider that to be a bridge too far in any kind of a back and forth. So yeah, this is a great choice. I like where we're starting. So Shannon, what's your highlight?
I am Aegon Targaryen, Viserys' true heir, the sixth king of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men. I was anointed by the High Septon and the Light of the Seven, and it is in their light that I stand before you now. Strike me down and the stranger will take retribution. The warrior sword will be judgment upon you. Yes, yes, cowards, you might well retreat, for now you see me as I truly am, dreadful in vengeance, righteous and glorious. Dracarys. Now that's a scene.
Shannon, what does it say that I wrote down that whole thing too?
Tom Glencarney knocked it out of the freaking park on that. As we talked about, he said he only had a few takes in him. And I don't know which one this was, but boy, did he deliver. I was probably too close to my mic to give it the volume it deserved, but but his performance was magnificent. And I loved how it started with them just sitting by the fire and Aegon has been on this kind of redemption arc a little bit, needing to get humbled by Larys, and then when Tylan just gave that awkward answer to, do you think I'm a good man? And he just realized, what are his hopes, really? What can he do? If they try to sneak out, they'll probably get captured. They can't really go back anywhere. And he's like, no, I don't want to die like that with arrows in my back. He wanted to die with a sword in his hand, be remembered as a king and be buried by his dragon Sunfire. And I like when Laris pieced out, he was like, I shall make sure that they sing songs and write odes to you. And I guess that's all that Aegon had in his mind. He was tired of being put upon and he didn't have a lot of choices in his life because he was kind of controlled by Otto and everybody else. And he kind of took grasp of his own destiny. And he had no idea that was coming, that Sunfire was. And then to see Sunfire, I love how they built up the dread of everybody looking behind him. And he doesn't realize it at first. And he thinks they're kind of cowering due to his speech, which was a nice comedic beat. And then his sheer delight when he realizes what's happening. Man, did he sell that. I thought that was great. I love the look on Sunfire with also half a face damage, just like Aegon has. The effects look great. Hey, did you know they burned 23 men? That looked fantastic. And Tyland's reaction to the whole thing too was like, what the hell is going on? My favorite scene in the episode by far. I just loved it.
It was a great scene with so much fun and also 23 men getting burned.
23,
yes,
you say?
I did love Laris is such a weasel. You know what would work is you should go give yourself up and then this king and I can get away. Oh, you don't want to go with that plan? Okay, well, then Aegon's like, I'm going to go. Well, obviously I would not be any good in a fight. I mean, it's clear I would not help you. But what I can do is I can make sure your sacrifice goes. They will sing songs. They will write poems, right? Oh, by the way, all that money I took, I'm still going to keep it. And he gets away with it. That's what cracks me up, is he just gets away with it. Yes, it was a great scene. And yes, it is the cliche of someone showing force and there's a bigger person behind you. And that little skinny person like, oh, I'm afraid, and it's because the big, the thing or the Hulk is behind you. It was, forget all the crap of how we got there. Because I agree, we talked about this, no matter how it ends up, I don't think we are criticizing the storyline, how it got there. I think they did this poorly. But what does work is the idea that he's alive and, he's out of chewing gum. He's just ready to kick ass, burn people. And it is the idea, too, that this burned child now has his super weapon back. And when I have my super weapon, nothing can stop me. I have my magic lamp. I have my Thor hammer, whatever you want to call it. And now then you F with the bull, you get the horns. You F with me, you get my dragon. A fantastic, and the arrogance and the anger and the superiority, I think, forget any chance any movement he made in learning about himself and being kinder and possibly being a better man. F that. I've got a dragon. Who's got 2 thumbs and a dragon? This guy. And moving forward. So, yeah, great choice.
Good thing he still has those thumbs.
Yes, he, unlike other things.
Yeah, this was going to be my number one highlight as well. I thought the build up, though, to his choice that he's going to make his stand, I thought that was really well done because, and it did represent some change in Aegon because, after Tylan said, you're a bad man, basically, he's like, okay, bravos it is, because I suck. And then once they're on the road, he recognizes that he can't go on doing this anymore. He's like, I am the king. I am the true heir. I need to go down in battle. I need people to know that it's me. I don't want to be just remembered as the guy who got killed by his brother. So to me, what led him to the idea that he's just going to face down these rivermen when they come for him, I thought he legitimately earned that as a character. But to Jesse's point, as soon as he has his nuke again, he can discard his training, his evolution, and fall back onto his anger and his pride and all of his flaws, which he's literally half of himself now. So much of him's been scarred. So the question is, will he lean into that total vengeance, which I'm guessing he will, because after he says Dracarys and he watches those 23 guys burn, he's laughing maniacally at the end of that. It isn't, go hug my dragon, I'm so happy you're here. It's, it's Palpatine, like, to me, his response. So I'm happy that he is reunited with his dragon, but nothing good will come of this. And it really makes me wonder, what is his play? Because he has no army. So all he can do is be a spoiler in somebody's fight. I mean, I don't even think he's going to necessarily go after Rhaenyra. He might go after Aemond. I'm going to be very curious to see what becomes his brilliant plan now that he does have his dragon back. So I'm glad, as others have pointed out, we finally brought this story to the point we all knew it was heading to. And I just have to, again, give Tom Glencarney his flowers, because that was a fantastic performance when he gave that speech. And I just hope that this was not the zenith of the character, and maybe we have something more to see from him than this.
They say that pets look like their owners. What I enjoyed more was the scene where they make the decision to stay and the departures that followed. It was the most mature and real Aegon has felt in this entire show. He's had a very humbling experience, and now he's taking life more seriously. He truly expects to die, but it'll be on his terms. Tylan says that he'll stay there, and the missionaries are instantly like, GTFO! That was great. And then, of course, Larys's departure. I feel like Larys actually felt for him in that moment. I mean, he tries very hard not to connect with anybody, but I feel like he couldn't help but feel for the decision this kid was making. And Aegon, he agrees there's absolutely no reason for Larys to stay. He'll just die and do nothing because he really can't fight. So, but he has that look on his face like, he was there for me. He got me out of the castle when I was in danger. There he goes. I'm on my own, except for this Tylan guy. But my problem started, I think, when Aegon declares, I'll make my stand here. And instantly I went, nope, nope, nope. And be buried as a king with my dragon. Don't you friggin' dare. That is so ridiculously obvious. Because I'm like, you're by Rook's Rest, which means you're by Sunfire, which means this is where it's gonna happen. They're definitely bringing him back. It's absolutely happening. This was like a half an hour earlier in the episode before it happened. I already knew it was happening. And then we get to the scene. Yeah, I thought it was bizarre. They've got this army sweeping the land, hunting Sir Tylan, but stopping at every straggler to make them bend the knee? That's just weird. That was really weird. This big army of people stopping at these two guys like, we see you as a danger. We're going to make you swear loyalty, or we'll kill you. It's like, just a couple of people at a fire. You've got like a whole army with you. It was weird to me. And then it took them like half the conversation to go, hey, aren't you the guy we're looking for? Good of you to notice. Isn't this what your primary job is right here? Finding this guy? Did you bother looking at these two? But, and here it comes. What really upsets me is that this was a good scene. It really was. The setting and atmosphere were great. The dramatic 2 against 500 was great. The speech was absolutely amazing. But the entire thing was sullied because all I could think was, you bastards are going to bring the dragon in now. This was so telegraphed. I saw it weeks ago. And I just couldn't enjoy it. I was literally yelling at the TV over top of Aegon's speech to say, no, don't do it. Don't go there. They went there. Yep, they did it. And it was predictable. Honestly, if it had just been season 2 Cole stating that Sunfire was long in the dying, and then this season's scene with Aegon hugging the dead dragon, I wouldn't have seen it coming. And I would have loved it. But I couldn't. I couldn't enjoy it. I mean, I can go back and watch the scene as its own without thinking about all the build up to it. But that initial reveal was totally ruined for me. And it's like, that's the thing. People are somehow able to separate the fact that this was overly telegraphed and it's not shocking, even though they're presenting it as a shock. They want you to be surprised by something they told you about 50 times. Kudos to everybody who can separate those things, but it wasn't working for me, and they ruined it for me. There was one part that I really enjoyed in the moment, when Aegon said Dracarys, and Tylan instantly kneels down to get out of the line of fire. He's just like, the penitent man, the penitent man shall pass. Like, yes, go Tylan, the true survivor of this show. That's it. I think I'm done. I think I'm done arguing about Sunfire. Case closed.
I just want to add one thing about the emergence of Sunfire, because it did tie back into the Godzilla movie approach to things, because literally it's the rustling in the trees and there's some dark thing that rises up, which is another sort of trope from those movies, right? It's the rustling thing that we get all afraid of. A little Jurassic Park thrown in there.
I was going to say that. I'm like, I think they did that in Jurassic Park too.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, it's a good trope.
It is, and it worked.
Definitely appropriate here. And like, they burned like what? What was it, 20 guys?
23. But Sunfire's really hungry.
How could I forget?
Sunfire's really hungry. That was why they needed 23. He's been
an extra 3.
Yeah.
20 is a normal meal, but we need a little extra.
Okay, so Jesse, what is your highlight?
So I'm gonna go with the other love triangle. We've got a boy and his mom and his girl. And how often is it just awkward when you bring your new love home to meet your mom, or in this case, you invite your mom over to your new apartment that you're so proud of. You guys are setting up house and you want to be so proud and showing your new love and your new castle, and it doesn't go well. Your mom doesn't like the girlfriend doesn't like the mom, you throw in there, mom's also trying to kill you, and you're wanting to sleep with your mom. In fact, you're having erotic dreams about sleeping with your mom, and it is a mess. Such a mess. And Eamon, he thanks this guy for getting his mom home safe and then kills her. Because we can't have anyone know I'm here. It just is an awkward dinner scene. It's an awkward, and it's also creepy because we know why Alicent is there. She is, and so Alice is correct. Alice is saying she wishes you ill. This is a bad thing. I will say I did not think it was a dream at the beginning. I was like, oh, okay. Then, of course, you realize it is. It was a wonderfully odd, confusing scene that it should be at Harrenhal because it's always crazy and out of sorts there with all kinds of things happening. And then what a perfect punctuation is he drinks his poison tea and he collapses, and Alice, idiot. Which obviously means he's not dead, right? They wouldn't have ended with that humor, I think, if they were going to actually kill him off. So I just thought this was in a scene of great dragon battles and all this other stuff, watching just the pure insanity and awkwardness of that was worth talking about. So that's my choice. Can't wait to hear what you guys think about it.
That was a great choice. Alicent, we don't know what her assassination plot is actually going to be. She didn't get any instructions. And so when it starts out that she comes in and she seems to be doing the things that she was resisting the last time that she and Eamon were together when he, was trying to kiss her. I was like, oh, that's her strategy, right? She's going to come in like, I'm compliant now. So I didn't realize it was a dream until, we hear Alice's voice in the dream. And then things really go sideways, after the real Alicent arrives, because then Eamon is so freaked from his dream, and whenever she says something that was similar to the dream, like that one, number one, just grabbing her to see if she's actually real, but then when she makes a comment about, I came back for you, which was something similar to what was said in the dream, she's really like, I don't know. I definitely got myself in trouble here. And then, obviously, the plan was the Protector was supposed to kill Eamon, and instead, Eamon kills him immediately. And not because of the plot or the ransom, but because he's trying to protect this whole secrets of what he and Alice are planning now. We got these dragon eggs, and this is going to be our seat. The dinner was hilarious when they... After Eamon kills the guy, and then Alice walks in and is like, dinner's ready. And then they go and sit down, and it was extremely awkward. I love the way that Olivia delivered the line about, who is this woman? Like, seriously. And then later when Alice is like, well, obviously your mother isn't planning to stay. She wants to go to Old Town where the weather's so much better. And, she's not made for the Riverlands. All of that was very entertaining, for sure. And once I realized, though, that she was going to try to poison him, I was like, what is your exit strategy out of here? You don't have your protector. There's no way you would win against Alice in terms of all of her tricks and treachery. And potentially, Aemon, if he doesn't kill you, he might just lock you up someplace. So, I don't love this whole idea that she's an assassin and going to try it, really. But it was still very entertaining. And I'm a little confused about where she goes next and what she does. Is like the least resourceful person in the woods that we know. And she just talked about how dangerous the King's Road was. So, very entertaining. Absolutely. And the last thing I loved was Alice is with her owl when, Aemon comes stumbling in and again collapses at her feet. And is going to die without her.
To quote one of my favorite comedies, 2 words: therapy. Aemond and Alice and Alicent. This got weird. Weirder than Daemon dreaming of sleeping with his mother. The weirdest part, he was cool having sex with his mother, but freaked out when he realized it was Alice. That's what really made it weird. I wasn't buying the dream with Alicent at all. It was off her just showing up in his bedchamber, like right off the bat. Alicent is much more believable when she's rambling on like she was about this random guy she wanted him to meet. That I believed. But seriously, what is Aemon's plan? Start a second kingdom at Harrenhal? The Westerosi Schism? That's a history joke for those who know. The kingdom in the mud. I don't get it. But poor Alicent is just desperate to complete her mission. This was the first time I bought her performance to Aemon. She offered him spiced wine, and then had a callback to when he was a child, and she was actually kind to him, then basically forgiving him for attempting to kill his brother, which everybody knew anyway. That was a good performance. And I don't just mean Olivia's performance, I mean Alicent's performance was good there. And I also cannot blame Alice for her reaction when he comes in and collapses at her feet. She warned him. Warned him twice. Idiot. I did, and that is a big tell, being that silly about it. He's gonna be fine.
From the people that brought you 2 guys, a girl, and a pizza place, now comes a guy, a mom, a witch, and a haunted castle. Yeah, I love the comedy beats of this, Jesse, like you talked about. It was so awkward. The whole thing. You guys have talked about Olivia Cook's delivery of, I still don't understand who this woman is. That just cracked me up. She was so good. Everybody played their role to the hilt. It was odd where let's go chop some wood wasn't a metaphor and was real, The part of it that I don't understand is like, I don't understand what Rhaenyra's plot was. I mean, sending one guy and I came here to treat with you, and like, what did she think the reaction would be? And they highlight, we know the King's Road is dangerous, especially in a time of war. And they even, put a lampshade on it in this episode. So how did they get there? How long did it take them to get there? And then what is she supposed to do after the deed is done to get safely back? I mean, obviously Alicent can't stay there and her protector is dead. So she's just going to walk the King's Road alone. I mean, I feel like she knows she has to go back because of Helena. That's the bargaining chip that Rhaenyra holds. But it's just another poorly thought through assassination attempt. But I guess if you've got other things going on with the Winter Wolves and Rivermen marching one way and you've still got 6, or you think 6, dragons and everything, why not just, try a Hail Mary to see if this will work to get rid of Aemon? And I like how they shot it with Alicent introducing this guy and presenting him as like, well, he may be Team Black, but he's noble and has a great reputation, and he protected me on the King's Road and whatever. And Aemon just jabs that dagger right up his jaw. Brutal. And then it's like, oh, we got secrets to keep. And then, is anybody ready for some supper? You know, it was just like one weird beat, then a comedy beat, and then it got weird, like you talked about with the owl and everything. I thought it was really, really funny. And all the actors, I think, were very good at it. And like everybody ahead of me has said, idiot is the perfect button on that scene. That was just great.
So I want to move from the kinky dream to Helena's dreams. I want to talk about the couple scenes with Helena. The first one is when she's dreaming about, she's out in the courtyard of the Red Keep, I believe, and she walks up to the horse and the cart, and the gates swing open, and she's, seemingly about to walk out, and that's when you get the looming head of Rhaenyra waking her up out of her dream. And Rhaenyra, we talked about this last week, once Rhaenyra understood that she's a dreamer. I know some of our listeners' comments were, who didn't know that she was a dreamer? Well, Rhaenyra didn't know she was a dreamer. Obviously her Hightower family members knew that she had visions, but they didn't really understand what they were. And Viserys maybe did, maybe didn't. So then she gets browbeaten by Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra should understand that these prophecies are not, literal pages and descriptions, but she starts asking these really specific questions. And I loved the way the actress Fia, who plays Helena, was showing how alarmed she was by how menacing Rhaenyra was towards her, and also that when she kept asking the questions, the more she was like, what do you know about Daemon? And, was Daemon in your dream? And clearly she's had dreams about Daemon, but she isn't going to speak about it, because whatever she's seen is horrible. And then she keeps pressing even more about, do you have real, what's Ormond doing? And it's showing how unhinged Rhaenyra is becoming, how obsessed she is with this idea that she needs this validation from the gods for her rule. So I love those two scenes because it's also showing just how much of a toll this knowledge that Helena has, and it's very fragmented. She even says that herself. And it was funny when Rhaenyra said, what did you just dream about? And she's like, a gray horse. and that was definitely not the best way to start that conversation for Rhaenyra. But then later we have another dream segment of her, and this one she's delivering her baby. And at first I was like, oh, are we doing a time jump? And she's actually, in labor now. And then the baby's immediately taken by the gold cloaks. And then we cut to her on her dragon, and she seems to be like in the dragon pit, and she calls Dracarys and burns a whole bunch of people that are trying to run into the dragon pit, which made sense if that is prophecy, that, what does she have left now if her baby just got taken, presumably. And then the last scene is her, and she has her living son who was killed last season, and her daughter, and she's with her chickens. And then that soon turns into snow falling and the implication of the long night, the winter that's coming with the the far future. And then we see her wake up from that dream, and then we immediately cut to Rhaenyra also in bed, not sleeping, and that's when she walks off to go visit Mysaria. And I'm not going to talk about that scene at all, but I thought they did a great job of intercutting those moments together, and I thought the performance by the actress who plays Helaena was great, because she's face acting the heck out of this stuff in terms of showing that she knows things, that she's terrified, that she's, really suffering from these visions. I thought all of that was really, really interesting and well done.
Poor Helaena. Now there's no buffer between her and Rhaenyra. By the way, Rhaenyra, you're crazy as showing. And that's saying something when you're in the same room as Helaena. I was thrown for about half a second at the second dream sequence when they cut to her having birth, and I'm like, oh, was there a time jump? No, wait, this is a dream. Okay, yeah. I actually thought that the two children on the farm was her daughter and the son she's currently pregnant with. The boy looked a little younger than the girl. I want some more details on how these dreams work. Like, in some stories, predictions or visions of the future, like, you can't change what's going to happen. You may not understand the context that it's happening in, but it's set in stone. You're simply glimpsing the fourth dimension, and these things have already happened, so you can't change them. Or is it in this world that she gets hints about what could happen and has a chance to steer things away? Like, were all of these things in this dream things that were going to happen? Were they metaphors? Were they both? Like, are they metaphors for things that will happen? And what's the timeline on this? Like, she's still pregnant with her son, but he was there on the farm. So that's several years away. But then there's the eclipse. Like, what's the eclipse about? Have we heard about an eclipse before? I don't remember there being an eclipse in Game of Thrones, but it's followed by the winter and the blizzard that always accompanies the White Walkers. So, I don't what does the eclipse have to do with the White Walkers? Because I don't remember that at all. And what, the really big question here for me. Does this count against my prediction? Because I said Dreamfire would continue to exist off screen, but this was just a Dreamfire? Like, do the two dreams cancel each other out? Let me know.
That's a good question. One that will be decided shortly. Yeah, I love the Helaena stuff. I want to give a shout out to the director, Nina Lopez, I think Corrado. She also did Unbroken and Unbowed. So she did 2 episodes this season. She was delightful on the House the Dragon's Built and the behind the scenes. And staged, like, when she was talking about doing the dragon thing, she was like, oh my, that I got to do this. But I thought she did a kick-ass job. And the dreams weren't the kind of like, doo-doo, 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 when you go into a dream. And we've had different ramifications of prophecies, visions, and dreams in the whole Song of Fire and Ice saga. There was the one that, like, Maggie the Frog gave to Cersei, and then Daenerys had visions in the House of the Undying that were metaphors that showed her walking through a throne room that was, like, encased in snow. And so, I don't know how literal they are, Christine, in terms of what they mean. So, like, a pale horse or a pale rider goes back to biblical times and has often been used in Westerns or other things. A pale horse being a symbol of death. The childbirth scene was particularly upsetting because, like, the nursemaid took the baby and then just, like, it was a bucket brigade, handed it immediately to a Queen's Guard. I love how that was shot. It was kind of terrifying, and you could understand why Helaena was upset about that. And I think it was, Jaheira and her yet to be born son that she saw playing in the field. So I saw that one as like a little more of a hopes kind of thing before bad news comes. And then obviously it extends out to be like, winter is coming. So those were all artfully shot. And Wendy, you were right about, Fia Sabin, her acting in those. She didn't have a lot of dialogue and she had to do a lot with reactions. And she was like bedridden and just kind of from the neck up in a lot of it and just kicked ass. She did a great job on that. And I loved after the first stream when Rhaenyra wakes her up, that huge face of Rhaenyra, and then Rhaenyra tries to be patient, and then Helena's just her loopy self. And eventually Rhaenyra, in a cascading series of bad decisions, grabs her and gets more threatening. She tries to relate to her first as sisters. And then it becomes, well, I can talk to you as a sister, but as your queen, you must obey me. It was just kind of awkward and poor sweet Helena. And Dreamfire looked amazing. It was that purple blue color. And, as you mentioned, all the spikes on the head, and it was a good full on front shot before we saw it. So yeah, they were mystical and spooky and, if possible, even made Helena more sympathetic. Not only for the position she finds her in, but being cursed, if you will, by the meaning and lack of meaning or lack of understanding of her dreams, that obviously affect her emotional. Great scene.
Yeah, I love this from the perspective we are showing Rhaena is slowly losing grip on reality. The idea that she can't sense, she can't understand, and I don't know, maybe it isn't known how dreamers work. We as an audience know that it's never that clear, right? We've watched enough TV shows that the visions are never clear. We wish someone would give us just hey, turn right instead of turn left. But her screaming at her, well, you can refuse me as your sister, but you can't refuse me as your queen. But what are you thinking? You think that you threatening her as the sovereign is going to change her mind? Even if she was deliberately trying to hide it from you, what would that matter? You've already got her captured. She's already worried you're going to kill her kid. This is just, and I think, Rhianna keeps making bad decisions over and over and over again. And I have been this team from the beginning, right? Like the same way, I loved, I was always cheering for the King of the North and Jon Snow and all his family. So I cheer for this, but the more and more I'm like, okay, I think this kid that's having to put up with Ormond, he might be our best choice. I might have to cast my ballot for him as the most logical, most caring king we can have. Even if he does have Dick Cheney as his VP or chief of staff, right? And Ormond. So I loved this scene. I think it gave both of these actresses a chance to show what they're doing and how they're growing. And it also added seasoning to, as we joked about, the small council meeting that I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk about, but once again, she's out of control and not doing good things, and she doesn't have anyone who can say snap out of it. You need to focus on this. And I think that's partly because everyone is always manipulating, when you're a leader, their side of it. No one is there being absolutely trying to help you succeed. So I loved everything about this scene.
I just wanted to add one little piece because we didn't touch on it. At least I don't think we did. When Rhaenyra is talking about, our father didn't want to be a dragon rider either, and Helena talks about how it changes you, and I didn't want to be changed. And Rhaenyra says, "You think it changes someone?" And Helena's like, "You have 6 dragons," and she denies that she's changed. That was very telling. And, when Rhaenyra says, have the gods really chosen me to be this? And am I the rightful person? And clearly Helena knows some things about what's coming with her as well, that she's not going to tell. There was, besides the dreams, there was also the commentary on Rhaenyra. So we didn't talk about some other highlights. I'm going to guess we want to go around with a few more. So I will offer that up. Christine?
Yes. Just because I know we're all going to want to talk about it, I'll kick it off. Let's get ready to Dracarys! We got a hot one for you tonight. A fight like no one has seen yet, nor like to see again. We have dragons. Not 2, not 3, but 4 dragons. Who will come out on top, nobody can say. I really felt the Godzilla versus Mothra vibes here. Particularly the small humans trying not to get squished. Just get out of the way and let them fight. I was seriously concerned for Cyrex during this. Like, Wendy, you said it earlier, but she was getting the Maelys treatment, the, neck-biting thing, and I was so worried about a repeat conclusion. I mean, everyone in that scene was in danger, except maybe Rhaenyra, because this is her story, and she's not going to die until the show's over. Daemon nearly got it, though. But thankfully, we got a tender moment with Caraxes instead. It was so sweet. I actually rewound it because I was like, look at that. He's got blood all over his mouth and he's just like, hey, you okay? So cute. But I really hope they aren't expecting us to think Sheepstealer is done. After watching the month-dead Sunfire resurrect, the question really is, when and where will he re-enter the story? And will Rhaena get back up on him?
Yeah, we talked about this scene kind of in the discussion of the house the dragons built. So I won't relitigate all that. The effects were fantastic. And I felt, the only one I felt like wasn't in danger maybe was Caraxes. Cyrax took a big neck bite, and that made me seriously worried for her. In Sheepstealer, we've barely known Sheepstealer and know that it's a wild thing. But I felt sorry for Sheepstealer. And I think, who was it? Denise was talking about that in one of our, Ravens we got from listeners, which was great. Yeah, I was like, that poor thing. Even though it's about as ugly as sin, and, I had a lot of sympathy, for that. And the way it was staged, and the humans could have been smushed or burnt at any time. So yeah, I thought that was a terrific scene. And like we said, in the special features commentary, it's something we haven't seen before. And I thought they did a sensational job of realizing it. Oh, the other thing too, is I loved Rhaenyra's reaction when she gets off her dragon and is, it's kind of like WTF when she sees it's Rhaena. To Daemon, you knew this whole time. She was showing some serious fire and blood in that. And it was good to see her, instead of pondering all the mess ups in the, in the Red Keep, to see her out in action and being a dragon queen. So yeah, I loved that scene.
One of the things in the behind the scenes a couple of weeks ago when they interviewed the actress who plays Rhaenyra, right? She says that Sheep Stealer looks like her dog. She gets her dog kind of has an underbite or overbite. She just really, and yeah, I kind of feel a little bit, as much as you can feel sorry for a dragon, he's just happy being in the wild and, killing a few sheep, living his best life. And all of a sudden this crazy girl comes and claims me. And now I got to go do stuff that I don't want to see. The other thing that I thought was really well done in this scene is it reminds you that these are quote unquote wild animals. They are, when blood is in the water, to, kind of mix our metaphor, they are going to take it. They're fighting. And it isn't like they've been trained to fight together, right? Like you have 2 or 3 attack dogs attacking someone else, right? This is just a free for all, and they're trying to control it and how they're doing. We talked about this before, but it is amazing when you see that it's people with poles and some guy in a head. Oh, hey, look, I'm the dragon. And then when you see the finished product, I mean, I'm old enough to remember with the first Superman movie, Christopher Reeves, right? You'll believe a man can fly. And we did. Like that was the at the time unbelievable special effects, and you went, wow, it really looks like Christopher Reeve is flying. And you believe there's dragons. Like this is it's the same sense of awe when you watch that first Jurassic Park. Like, how are they doing this? And so yeah, I loved everything about it. I love the repercussions of the sisters getting back together and immediately giving her grace. And we've got Queen Rhaenyra having mixed emotions, right? Like this isn't immediately kill her. It is like, oh, well, now that I know what's going on, I want to take my anger. And it was very cool for her to push it toward Daemon, right? Like, because it was, we often, my wife and I talk about if you've been married a long time or even a short time, you're often able to take your anger off at your spouse, whether they deserve it or not, because they know they'll take it, and you know that they're going to give you grace later. And so this was a way for her to throw her anger, and this is so the side of Daemon being a better father. I won't say a good father, but a better father. And he's trying, including saying please to to a person he doesn't want to say please to, worrying about it, going to his beloved and saying, look, this is why. I didn't mean to lie to you, but I was stuck. So really a lot going on. Plus, it's a kick-ass fight because you got dragons fighting. So great scene.
Yeah, the lead into that when Daemon first finds Sheep Stealer and like basically bats him on the head to get him to land to have their conversation, and then Caraxes is yelling to amp things up, and then once Daemon gets on the ground and Sheep Stealer, he doesn't flame, but he throws enough, breath at him that it knocks him back on his butt. And then they can finally have a conversation with Rhaenyra, who he's trying to explain, whatever your plan was, it's not right. And then once he understands her plan is, oh, I'm going to kill Vhagar as a way to get back into Rhaenyra's good graces. And Daemon's like, you can't do it yourself. I'll help you. And he is trying to be a protective father again, and he does understand how pissed Rhaenyra is going to be when she finds out that she's the rider of Sheepstealer. Then everything goes kaflooey because Rhaenyra and Adam arrive in the middle of this conversation. Rhaena thinks that he's misled her. She doesn't trust. So that amps things up even further for Sheepstealer. And, we've talked in the past about how dragons are like cats. And to me, there's a lot of misdirected anger going on in this fight too, because everybody arrives and their hair's up and they're, ready to fight. And Syrax is the one that starts it by, blasting fire at Sheepstealer. And Rhaenyra comes in and she's blasting at everybody. And when she says this ends now, that's kind of what kicks off everything. And we talked about Caraxes. I do think that Caraxes, I didn't ever think Caraxes was going to die out of this fight. The other dragons, I wasn't sure, what might happen to those three. And then later, when Daemon goes into Rhaenyra's bedroom to, debrief and explain, I actually thought that was really well done and about both characters, because he came to, literally explain. He's like, this is my daughter. I'm not a good father. He even tried to tell Rhaena before the others arrived, I relate to your struggle because I didn't have a dragon until I was in my 20s. And I, was a young child when I lost my mother and was very at sea in a similar way to her. So he was trying to kind of reconnect with her. And she tells him the reason she's trying to, get Vhagar is because she can't live alone in the wild any longer. She needs her family. So I was happy that Rhaenyra listened to Daemon saying those things and understood that it wasn't the plot that Mysaria had framed it as of, Daemon's going behind your back again and there's some power play and it's because he doesn't trust your leadership. It was nothing about that. It was him trying to protect his daughter from a horrible, a horrible mistake that she had made. So I liked how the fallout of that dragon fight proceeded. The thing I'm going to be really curious about, though, is when we do see Sheepstealer again, if how the Sheepstealer will react to those other dragons. And it's like, are you going to come in and help, or are you going to try to kill us? Depending on when it arrives and what's going on. Certainly the first time it was in battle did not go well. So, maybe he's got scores to settle and is going to try to attack Syrax, or maybe he's going to be like, hey guys, let me play. Let me join in the fun.
I'll say Matt Smith said he did not enjoy shooting this scene. He has to fall down a lot in this scene. He really took a beating, like actual physical. That first time when Sheepstealer comes in, he does start to breathe fire, but it's really the landing that shakes the ground, and Matt Smith is just like, it's not a simple fall. It is a complicated, elaborate fall. That was probably the best take they got to that we saw. So I have to agree with him. This was probably a terrible day for him. And on top of that, everyone was told to wear long pants because there were ticks. I mean, it was just bad conditions for a great visual.
I want to give a small shout out to another scene, which has become a reliable source of comedy for me, which is Team Black small council meetings. I love how they go around and, and Manderly goes on this speech and talks about, well, everything I propose gets shot down, and it's almost like I'm being made a scapegoat. And then they cut to Masseria, who gives she gives a perfect Jim from The Office, take when they cut to him. It was just so funny. And then it was like, any word from Corlys? No. From Harrenhal? No. From Daemon? No. And then, of course, Lady Frey has to ask about Harrenhal. And Rhaenyra's just had enough of that. And it's like, you know what? Just take it. Get your men from the twins and go over there. So that whole thing.
I will gladly do that.
They always make me laugh, those scenes.
Yeah, I love that. When she was like, "We'll go," and I mean, I'm assuming that Rhaenyra's like, "I hope Daemon's still alive to kill you when you get there." was also the implication.
Yeah, I agree. That was a lot of fun, and this is just incompetence, just over and over again, and just not even. Yeah, it was kind of. I almost feel like I'm being a scapegoat. Really? Oh no, not at all.
Where would you get a feeling like that?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
it reminds me of Veep in some ways,
So,
and as ridiculous as that scene was, he did point out that he proposed a tax and it falls on deaf ears. And then they just don't acknowledge that. I mean, you could come back and say they're already taxed. We can't raise the tax. They don't have any money, but they didn't say anything. And that right there is a sign of poor leadership. It's like, he's trying to find money, but he doesn't have a lot of tools to work with here. So what are you doing? What can I do? Yeah, I just kept thinking, well, you could open up a bakery and, make us these, delightful little pastries. I'd buy that.
Hot pies. We need a baker like Hot Pie.
Don't make me hungry.
I want to pivot off of that scene because, Masseria taking the drink was the laugh out loud moment for me. And I loved the scene when she is in the throne room with Sylvie, and Sylvie totally calls her out for, not being a woman of the people. She's like, "Oh, you invited me here to flaunt all this stuff in my face and to, assert your power." And she's like, "But really all you have is flattery and cajoling." And, Masseria gets really pissed at that because she's not viewed as a benefactor, and Sylvie reminds her that these people will never view you as anything but a whore. And then in the scene where Rhaenyra goes to speak to her and say, "Look, Daemon wasn't betraying me. You've been like pouring honey in my ear, on one side and vinegar about Daemon on the other." And then when she is very vulnerable and is like, "Will I be a good queen? Do I deserve this?" I'm paraphrasing what she said. We get Masseria cajoling and flattering her and then literally seducing her, which is a whore's trade, to work on Rhaenyra and manipulate her. So I'm curious about any thoughts on that little bit of the episode.
I mean, she just fell back on what she knows best, and she did it best. I really have nothing really to say about the scene. I predicted this would happen, but I do want to give a shout out to excellent framing when they had Rhaenyra down and Masseria on top of her. They positioned them in front of the fireplace so that it looked like the fire was coming out of Rhaenyra's mouth, like a dragon. It was a very excellent little detail that I caught the first time through. Very nice.
Yeah, I think the thematic resonance of it, you nailed it, Wendy. The, being accused of like pouring honey in somebody's ears, and then that turns around and that's exactly what she does. And I also thought she came on a little strong when after that council meeting, when she was, Daemon has left, I think she's going overboard in her trying to poison Rhaenyra against Daemon. Playing her cards two face up, if you will. But we've seen that from other people before. I would love to play poker with virtually any of these characters. Maybe not Ormond, but I would just not bathe for a day if I was doing that. So it's interesting to see where Mysaria goes from this. She's got a comfy lifestyle and she's in, but if she doesn't think the common people are being taken care of well enough, or she thinks Daemon's got too much influence, or sees her usefulness coming to an end, what's her role going to be? I don't think we'll get an answer to that next week, but I think that's a good long-term thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, not much I can add except I also predicted that, so I was very happy to see that happening. And it's you're just she doesn't have a little Stephen in both roles, both in the E Street Band and in The Sopranos, someone who gives truth to power. Right. And someone who is not pushing their own agenda. And as queen, she needs that. So yeah, I think this was, not surprising. And, this is a series that for all of Game of Thrones and the blatant nudity and sexuality, there is not as much in this one. So, we got a little bit of, fun little time and we'll go from there.
Any other highlights or lowlights we want to talk about?
I'm just going to shout out that I am not a fan of the Baela, Alan, Adam love triangle. I think we all thought there was more chemistry going on with Adam, and then they put her with Alan, and she's apparently blind to the whole Adam affection. I mean, she's been around him a lot lately, and it's just all business. Business. And even he's right there asking for legitimacy and a name so that he may court a lady, hint, hint, and she just misses it. And I'm like, I don't need this. This doesn't add anything for me. This just be a little straightforward, and that's all I need. Not a fan of this.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of hokey, but it was brief enough that it didn't really detract from anything. So it's kind of one of those, okay, on to the next scene. We got enough good stuff going on.
It is definitely a Hallmark movie, bad Hallmark movie trope. So yeah, this feels like something that wasn't in the books. I don't know if we want a ruling from our expert. This just seems something they've added on for something like, oh, we've got to give these actors something to play against, and just don't. Yeah, even as this is certainly not a ship I've got going on.
Not necessarily the way things go in the book for any of the characters involved in that.
Yeah, I don't think this adds anything for any of the characters, really. I'd rather listen to them talk about Corlys or something else, or even Baela and Adam talk more about their sort of relative positions as dragon riders, because Adam is the go-to of Rhaenyra, right?
That's great.
And she's not. I mean, I'd rather hear more about that, but I think that's also the reason why she isn't getting the obvious puppy love vibes coming off of him, because she's so uptight about anything related to missions that Rhaenyra sends her on that could be it, but who knows? I don't really care. So that's interesting, Shannon, that you say that it's not like that in the books. I'm going to be very curious what Alan, does with the ring finger he's received, if that is another wedge that Ormond's trying to use, if it will actually work on him or not.
Corliss of the 9 fingers. They cut off his ring finger. I gotta do it.
So with that, I think we are going to close this one out. Programming note before we go. Due to travel schedules for some of our maesters, we aren't actually going to record the full post-finale episode until a little bit later. We will record some hot takes that hopefully our editor Brent will stitch together into a beautiful tapestry for you all. And please drop your thoughts and comments on Discord or email or voicemail in the meantime. And I want to again thank you all for listening and commenting as well. And I want to thank our maesters, Christine, Shannon, and Jesse, for a lot of fun talking about this crazy dragon world. We will see you again soon.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for your feedback.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you.
Keep up with your needlepoint.
Yes.
We'd love to hear our listeners voice thoughts and send us feedback. Call us at 706-927-8478. Stop by our tuningintoscifitv.com blog to record a SpeakPipe message, or check the show notes and leave us comments. From the blog, you can also find links to forum discussions and subscribe to our RSS feed. Call into our Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Skype account and leave us a message. Be social with us on our Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Facebook page, or follow us at Tuning Into Sci-Fi on Twitter.
You've been listening to Small Council Matters from Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, episode 134, recorded August 3rd, 2026.